Just remember again to say your name first. Kutlano, you have an extra chance. You can say the names of your two babies. Yo! Some people to punish white people for apartheid. They join the EFF, they go to the rallies, they sing songs. Kutlano chose names for his children. That's here. That we cannot pronounce. And that is his dark sense of humor. So when you speak first, please give us the names of your two children. And I'm going to test you if you can say it. And then your own name, which wasn't easy anyway. And then your answer. Just before we go deeper, just to do a little bit what they did. On a day like today, Freedom Day, everyone here is very intellectual. Just in terms of your feelings, your heart. Now I'm getting the intellectual eyes. I don't want the intellectual eyes, I want the heart eyes. Just on Freedom Day in South Africa, you sitting here, sad, happy, angry, weird, guilty. Because these three messed it up for us already by bringing in the poor and all this drama. But just for you as a dad or whatever you are, sad, happy, frustrated, what emotion are you sitting with on a day like today? Don't even bring in that you're at an NG Kerk. Forget that part. Just 27 April. What are you feeling? I'm going to start that side. Hey, Langa.
Do you know, the honest truth is that I don't really think about it, to be honest. You know, we were, I mean, I just came from a gathering, and again, it was similar to what you said. It's just like, it just becomes another day where you get together and you braai. And probably more because I was coming here today that I had to think a bit more the fact that this is, you know, a significant day. But not to say that in other moments or in at other junctures in my life, I'm not, you know, thinking and frustrated but I just don't think there's like a significance, you know, around it. I mean, you even see social media. Maybe some people will post something or whatever it is, but there's nothing, I guess, for me, in my observation, in this nation that actually says something significant happened today. So even walking around today, conversations today, there is nothing that would say, hey, this was this momentous occasion. Yeah. And so sadly, I mean, even for me, it's not a, if I'm being honest, there's nothing like woo-ha about today.
No, I just want to pause. Inviting Christians is very useful because they can be humble and honest. And for most people in our church, would gravitate to your answer. It's just another day. Just Skalk is trying to be funny or whatever. But so thank you for just putting that there. It's very helpful.
Yeah, my name is Baba Lo, and I think I'm freedom fatigued. So to a certain point, thinking about these things just makes you tired because you've intentionally engaged in them, you've come in with a good heart, and you've literally hoped and believed that, you know, when they say hope deferred makes the heart sick, it's where one can find themselves. So when Freedom Day comes, it's like, I'm freedom fatigued, I'm done. I don't want to think about it. Because the more you think about it, the more you get frustrated, right? So it is something that you don't want to spend time on because it feels like you're going to be wasting your time again. And I know that when we are Christians, we say we must never lose hope. But when you think about days like today, you can be fatigued because it's going to be the same thing over and over again. So yeah, that's my basic answer to a complicated question, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, now the first group, you're starting to look worse. I thought you were the best, but the second group is bringing it. Again, I want to give us 20 seconds, not to rush, and just to take in what we've heard. Very different reactions. We have this disease saying black people think like this. Now at least one has got long hair, one is short hair, one feels like this, one feels like that. So we're getting this practical. So let's sit again with some silence and just replay in our minds what we just heard.
My name is Kutlwano Toko.
Your children.
Children. Atlaralang Hlonolofato Toko. And Haashule Atlea Toko. So I have a thing with names, and I think it could also go with themes around freedom. If we think back and reflect on some of our parents whose surnames are not the original surnames because there was no freedom in choosing a name and being recognized as who the land called you and who your parents called you. And so my children's names are a declaration in some ways that this is what I choose. Yeah. And it's important that the world recognizes them as that. Yeah. And so I tell my little girl that she must not accept people shortening her name, because even in that, there's a lack of freedom. Yeah. Yeah. And so she needs to recognize that this is my name, my father's chosen this name, and you will call me by that. Yeah. I guess that is a level of freedom, right? And I think the freedom for the other is the humility to stumble along with someone's name until we recognize and then we can pronounce it. And so I had many fights with my wife about names. It's the one place where I was, Indot, I'm a man. I will name these children. You can't say anything. And yes, and we saw videos. Thank you. I mean, it's a simple thing, a name, but such a powerful thing if it's steeped in meaning. I'll be a little vulnerable. My wife and I lost the baby at 36 weeks, and that's a painful thing. And so my daughter's name is a name that honors life and celebration. And now imagine walking around and now someone is shortening a name that is part of a long story. And so there is something about freedom in a name. But then my feeling, sorry, this guy made me go one way. But for me, my feeling is I think I feel spoiled and I feel unappreciative. I think when I look at the news every single day, there is craziness happening every single way. And here I am, privileged in South Africa, where I can call my president cupcake and nothing happens to me. Where I can disagree with people and nothing happens to me. And so I think and I'll speak for others, for the vast majority of South Africans, I think we have something so beautiful that we are fatigued, as was I, we are fatigued, but now we need to catch a wake up because we are seeing how there are individuals who wield power and who want to manipulate, who can exploit this beauty that we have, even though we are not where we need to be. And I recognize that there are still lots of unfreedoms. And so I think we're spoiled, and we're not honoring the gift that was given in 1994. And there are some who are even intentionally going beyond and just disregarding it. And so that's just my view, my feeling on how I'm just feeling spoiled. And also, I think for me, freedom isn't a destination. We never get to a point where we're free, because we'll get to a certain point and someone would have exploited and taken advantage of. We need to recalibrate and redesign and redefine what freedom looks like at that point. And I guess that's why a lot of us would feel there's no such thing as freedom today, because we're at a point where there's poverty, there's exclusion, and so we need to almost recalibrate before Trump does something.
One of my questions I had lined up, but by the various answers, is converging me now to my question. And just for the audience, now you're going to be shy. Is everyone familiar with the term and the concept of black tax? Or must we just recap quickly? Not you, Trevor, you are black, you will know it. Die wit mense, do you know what black people talk about when they talk about black tax? Or must someone quickly recap? Recap. Do you want to recap, or must the white person recap black tax? No, I'll ask the question as if I'm stupid, and then in your answer you can also explain what is black tax. So the question I have is, we white Christians, we share a burden because of the past of what we need to fix, why we need to reach out. Whether we do it enough or not is a different topic, but there's something in us. If there's a project, come. There's an imperative for us to go because of various reasons beyond our Christianity. My question is, as a black person that managed now to escape, is the black tax enough for you to live out your calling and duty to fix all the cousins and almal's problems? Is that enough of a calling to fix South Africa? Or is there a calling to fix someone else's babies? Black people that doesn't have anything to do with you. It's not in your line. Is there imperative for black people to reach out to the stranger, the black stranger? Because we recognize in black tax, you have soup kitchen in your own family. You don't need to start one. So that's my question is, and they're not in general philosophically, and it's a naughty question just based on where we're finding ourselves. So I'm curious, let's take us out of the chat if we can, and just look in on this internal conversation. Would be very interesting if you would humor us with that answer. Yeah? Take this one and give that one. Still thinking. Let me start with the youngster and then we'll come back.
So, long-winded response. One of the people that inspired me the most is my grandmother. So, grandmother living in Soweto, one of those mushroom houses, 2 bedrooms, 27 million of us in the house, and everyone is fighting as hard as possible to sleep closest to that iron stove. So, some of you will remember. And so during school holidays, my grandmother would force us to go and collect cans, and then we'd ultimately recycle those cans. And then she would take the money and she'd throw a big party and a celebration for the kids in the area who didn't have. What irritated me the most is my grandmother had probably the least within that area. But yet, the little effort that I did, very angry about that. That's a whole holiday gone picking up cans. She would give it away. And in retrospect, I think what I learned from my grandmother is we can't ultimately be happy if our neighbor is starving. And I think yes, we all have black text, and I think we all have a responsibility to think about our own families, but also need to fight the grain of sort of a Western lens on theology and reading the Bible, which is all about me. I think we need to read things as a collective. We have a duty for those within our families and for those outside of our families. I don't even think we have a choice in terms of what we do. I think it's a responsibility. Whether I were in a privileged position or even in my abject poverty, I think just because I do not have money doesn't mean I do not possess the ability to add value. And so it's also just recognizing that value can come in different ways.
Yeah, I think, yes, to your question, but what, one of the things I've realized actually was that I looked at my kids, where they go to school, the environment I'm raising them, and I've often wondered, what kind of human beings am I raising who are going to be conscious about their environment and the surroundings and what's happening around them? So with black text, I thought, if there's one thing I'm hoping God can help me do and not fail in, is to teach my kids that they are because of others. And because they are growing up in an environment that's totally different from theirs. Ours, I mean. So what I did, I took my daughter and I drove with her into a squatter camp. And I said, for the first time, you're allowed to open the window, don't put a safety belt, and stick your head out. I want you to try to look at things that look abnormal to you. Anything that you see, just think about it. Then when we get home, we can have a conversation. And when we got home, my daughter said to me, okay, I saw kids wearing uniform, holding their school bags, walking home. Why didn't their parents pick them up with their cars? I saw people spilling water on the side of the road. Why don't they use the bathroom or use... So she picked up things that in her life are normal and in those other kids' life. And we had an opportunity with my wife to sit our kids down and say, the life that you are living, that you are not happy about, is a privilege in this country. And you are 1% or 2% of society. What you saw out there is what's normal in this country. So I need you to think about those people every time you have a meal, you sleep in this bed, and you need, and in my view, that's how I was trying to prepare my kids for the future for black text, because it's almost impossible, the way I'm raising them with the privilege I have, that she'll have to look after her sister, because I'm sorting that out for them. Yeah. But if she's going to grow up as a person who cannot think about other people outside her family, then that's why I'm asking God to help me, because I would consider myself as a parent to have failed to raise somebody who can be. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but when my daughter prays every night, since that day, when she prays for food, when she prays before she goes to bed, when she sees somebody on the traffic lights, when we have something, she always, it's almost like it was a turning point in her life, that thing. And I ask God to keep making her cry for the poor, making her see more, so that in future she can ask herself, why has God placed me here? What is God asking me to do? And that can be her lens in which she thinks about life. Anyway, I'll stop.
Thank you. Baba,
All right. Apologies, I didn't introduce myself first round. So my name is Langa, or Langelihle Mbonambi. Yeah, with the black tax thing was something I used to wrestle with a bit, just the idea of it. And I think in kind of like wrestling with it, my thinking went along these lines that I think even the very fact that we term it as black tax, which is it's a negative. No one thinks of tax and thinks, woo, want some of that. is problematic, you know. So since when is helping family members a negative thing? You know, so that for me already, I started to, and I realized for myself when I was wrestling with this question I realized I felt like it was a tax or a burden because giving and serving my family, whether it's nuclear or beyond, inhibited me from doing certain things that I wanted to do and accomplish. And so then seeing it as a burden. And I realized part of this was, you know, the fact that we have very much kind of adopted a Western mindset to what Kutlwan had said, where it is about the individual. It's about self-actualization, according to Maslow. Whereas we all, and I'm pretty sure all the black people here, he's already mentioned he had a grandmother with thousands of kids. You know, it's pretty much all black people I know lived with someone that wasn't their direct family member. So I come from a family, I'm number 9 of 11. In my house, at any given time, there were at least 14 to 15 kids. And so the people that I call brothers and sisters, I only found out later in life that they weren't actually my brothers and sisters. But it was just what our parents did. It's what our grandparents did. They educated kids that weren't part of our nuclear family. It just was what it is, right? And so we even have this phrase that's commonly thrown out, Ubuntu. And we say Ubuntu, umuntu ngabantu. Some, you know, you're a person because of other people. And generally in our cultures, that was always it, is that we consider the other person. And now, so when I look at it also, because I wrestled through this thing and I had to also look through it through a biblical framework. And you see in scripture, there's this constant theme of you love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength, then you love your neighbor as yourself. And so that is what love is. That is what following God is not just the vertical expression, but the vertical expression has got to find expression within the horizontal. And so if I really love God, it will be expressed with how I love my neighbor. It's easy for me to come to church, to weep, to cry, and whatever. Oh, I love you so much, God. And then I'm the biggest idiot, you know, to the people that I'm around me. That means I haven't really loved. I haven't really expressed the love of God. Even, you know, 1 John says that if you can't love your brother who you see, how can you say you love God who you don't see? Yeah. And so I think that thing has become a burden for me, because I've realized even with our middle class black fellows is that that's no longer a thing. We're not thinking about even family members. You're no longer seeing people adopting family members from the hood or from the rurals. It's just about how can I get my kids to St. John's, to Rodine, or whatever it is. How can I live in the suburbs? And again, like I say, it's very much we've adopted this Western mindset, where as my life is better, the further away I move from the masses and the hood. And so it's that thing to say, man, guys. And again, like I say, it feels, and it's part of our indoctrination, even coming out of apartheid, is that the whiter your life, the better you are. And so the further you move from the masses of black people to your gated suburb, the more successful you are. And hence, then we can call serving our family members as a tax.
I just want to say they follow. If you move away, they follow. You build a new mall, they come. You have to keep building malls further away from the town center.
As
So
much as that happens,
we know.
they'll come and the white folks will go, but there will be somewhere where the white folks will go, and then that will be the next suburb to go.
For you sitting here, and I'm not talking much about our panelists, but it's topical. Langa is maybe one of our country's best or most interesting or authentic worshippers, gifted musician. Like my wife doesn't qualify to perform with him, so that's his level. He's saying, stop it. And humble. So I was curious if you're that into worship and then you pulled it horizontal now. That was going to be my question anyway, as a pastor, as Christians. Is our job to love God and preach the word faithfully? Because we might often hear, listen, the church is not a charity. Or even worse, Joseph, when you talked about politics, using that word to talking about food, etc., should the church be busy with worshiping God and preaching the word? Or are these things authentic faith, or is it distractions? People even talk about social gospel. So as a pastor, and you have white people in your church, ne? Are there any left? Is this a distraction from true church and worship? I think you said yours a little bit, but I'm wondering, when everyone's there on First Fridays, do you push them horizontal, or is it assumed? And then, so maybe you can answer first. This one I'm just going to focus on. I know you also preach now and again, but I want to hear from our church guys.
Okay. Can I ask to read something? And only I'll ask one white person who's brave to say what they think this means. And then I'm going to share what this is about, okay? I'm going to read something. This is our vision statement at church. We are pilgrims on a journey towards becoming a Jesus-centered, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multi-class community that equips one another to bring holistic healing to one another and the community at large, building towards healthy spirituality, being the hands and feet of Jesus in a diverse community. When I say this, white people, did I say anything that sounds far from what maybe Jesus said, or what did I say that offended you? Okay, you know why I'm saying that? I'm saying that because a couple that is white, that is in our church, left our church because we are focusing on apartheid, and this is apartheid for them. So when you talk about who's free, are we free, even when you are trying to follow Jesus, follow his words, follow his example, that's why I said to you, I'm fatigued. Because how do you listen to what I've just read, straight from scripture, and somebody is so free to choose how they want to interpret what Jesus is calling you to do, to bring his kingdom on earth? I'm not free to, but I still find that other races are free to choose what's what. And I need to be the subject of explaining myself, explaining the gospel. So I get fatigued when even the gospel, the words of Jesus, have to cause division in the same church. So,
English is our second language, so he's going to read it again.
Okay, we are pilgrims on a journey to become a Jesus-centered, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multi-class community that equips one another to bring holistic healing to one another and the community at large, becoming or building towards healthy spiritual maturity, being the hands and feet of Jesus in a diverse community.
Let me drop a bomb. This is called, tonight's thing is called Real Talk. When we hear that, we'll say Amen, all of us. But in real life, we are in an Afrikaans church. So when we hear multi-ethnic, what? What? We love black people a lot, but we love Afrikaans also a lot. So when we hear that vision statement, we just hear Afrikaans is under threat. And already so many things are under threat. So now our language in which we are worshiping, it will be under threat with your vision. So he's laughing, but so the vision sounds in one way perfect, but in a realistic way it sounds threatening, like, don't we have a right to worship in our own mother tongue? And now I don't know, at your church, is it Xhosa and Sotho and alles mixed, or it's the English one again? So I think there's a theological and a practical side. So those that left, we understand them. Because that's why we're in the first place not with you. We are used to here. So there's something, yes, and then there's something, So when everyone just smiles and say amen, I'm doubting it. Because we've got this thing about worshiping in your own language. And then multi-ethnic, what becomes a problem. So, yeah. So part of being fatigued, I think, is if our real talk is not real enough and we just smile at each other. So maybe from the floor, is there someone that wants to comment on this tension between a very beautiful vision statement? First, I thought about applying for what do you call it, like steers and stuff? Franchise. It sounded so good. We wanted to apply for franchise. So it's beautiful, but there's a problem there for like, let's say, Afrikaans church. Does anyone in the crowd want to have a stab at it, like a comment on how this sits, this tension? Because one is really in the Bible. That's in the Bible. It's the New Testament church. No one will disagree with you. But then today is today. Is there anyone who wants to ask or say something? Stegman? Iso. Just for the...
So what struck me as the most problematic thing in that vision statement, from my experience in the church, which is not very recent, is multi-class. I think that's the biggest problem there.
Can you elaborate on the multi-class?
He's asking you to elaborate and give us a bit more.
So, okay, I'm going to go on my memory, which is not necessarily correct, but from a history book that I read. Apparently, the church in South Africa, when it started, before the English arrived, you could become part of society as a slave or native woman if you marry a so-called Christian. And becoming part of the church is about becoming part of society. And so when the slaves were emancipated, they said there were all this fear about these slave owners, and the majority of the people in the Cape is the slaves, and they're going to kill us. It was this whole 94 fear moment. And then when the slaves were emancipated, the only thing that happened was the churches were full because people wanted to be part of society. And so I think we forget that there's something fundamental and primal about if you win economically, your God wins. That's kind of the old primal thing. If you defeat another tribe, you kill their gods, they have to take on your God. And I think there's something fundamental about associating economic privilege with God's blessing. And I think it's the most difficult thing to open that door, to go, okay, we're going to include everyone here. It's like black tax on steroids. It's like, I don't know. I just have this feeling that the biggest burden in the church at the end of the day, the biggest blocker is money at the end of the day.
We've reached a point here that needs, I don't know how long, silence, because there's so many layers. In one way, for Afrikaners, it's cute and easy to pull in poor black people, because they say thank you when we feed them. But when we get panels like this, you give us gray hair and complications. So on one hand, our church in the country is more used to push towards diversity on a very different social scale, economic scale, because things stay there. And then there's a other hand where when we integrate in terms of color, then we'll get people that's not just donkey, and it's really challenging and posing not just questions, statements, and offend us. So I think there's a double fear. There's a fear of too much poverty will take my resources, and too much class will take away my power. So there's a double-edged sword on the class one. So I think you're onto something. But the problem is even bigger. This frustration is very legit, and it's not their frustration. It's all of our frustration in the country. Marcus said the country is most divided on a Sunday, but the Sunday just reflects the everyday in our houses.
Yeah.
If I didn't have any black friends, I would have been preaching tonight by myself here, saying what black people really think. So the church reflects our homes also.
Yeah.
So the problem that you're highlighting, it cuts to the bone, and then I don't want to make an assumption about Freedom Day, because I might end up where you started.